In a busy suburban town stood a high school filled with students from all walks of life. The hallways buzzed with chatter in many different languages, and the classrooms were a blend of cultures and stories. It was a place where some students felt they belonged, while others quietly tried to find their place. Among them was Anaya. She was a quiet girl, always sitting near the back of the classroom. She had soft brown eyes that seemed to take in everything but spoke very little. Anaya was smart, always finishing her homework early and paying close attention to every lesson. She spoke English well, but her words carried a gentle Indian accent that made some students notice right away. Some classmates were kind to her. They would smile or include her in group work. But others weren't as friendly. Sometimes when Anaya answered a question or read aloud, a few students would snicker or whisper to each other. They didn't say it loudly, but their laughter made Anaya shrink a little inside. The teacher of the class, Mrs. Carver, was known for being strict. She had sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing, and a voice that could cut through noise like a knife. Mrs. Carver was sarcastic and cold, never afraid to speak her mind. Many students feared her more than they liked her. In this room filled with mixed feelings and quiet tensions, Anaya's story was about to take a surprising turn. One rainy Thursday morning, Mrs. Carver called on Anaya to read a passage from the book. The classroom quieted instantly. Anaya stood up, her heart pounding but her hands steady. She began to read, her voice soft but clear. As she spoke, her accent made a few words sound different. When she stumbled on one word, Mrs. Carver interrupted sharply. "That's not how you say it, Anaya," she said with a sneer. "You sound like you're trying too hard. This is America, not somewhere else." Some students laughed quietly. Anaya's face flushed red, but she didn't look away. She kept reading, hoping the moment would pass. Mrs. Carver wasn't finished. She went on, mocking the way Anaya said certain words. "Maybe if you spoke like everyone else, you wouldn't struggle so much," she added, her tone sharp and biting. The laughter grew louder. Anaya's chest felt tight. It was not just about the words, it was about how Mrs. Carver made her feel, like she didn't belong. Despite the pain, Anaya stayed calm. She lowered the book, and quietly sat back down. The room buzzed with whispers, and some students exchanged uncomfortable looks. No one said a word to defend her. The moment stretched heavy with silence and shame. Anaya knew that from now on, things might change, but she wasn't sure how. After that day, things didn't get any easier for Anaya. Some students began to tease her more openly. In the hallways, a few would imitate her accent, laughing loudly enough for her to hear. It felt like a shadow following her everywhere she went. Anaya tried to ignore them, but it wasn't simple. Each time she spoke, a small voice inside her whispered, "Are you good enough?" That evening, she told her mother what had happened. Her mother hugged her tightly, brushing Anaya's hair back. "You are strong," she said softly. "Never let anyone make you feel less than who you are." Anaya's best friend Lila stood by her side too. Lila was funny and brave, and always knew how to make Anaya smile. "We'll get through this together," she promised. Then Mrs. Carver announced a new assignment. Each student had to prepare a presentation about someone who inspired them. The whole class groaned. Most planned to talk about celebrities or athletes. But Anaya knew exactly who she wanted to speak about. She chose her father. Still, she didn't say much about him to anyone. She kept his story close, writing it down in her notebook during quiet moments at school and late nights at home. After school, Anaya often stayed in the library, reading and writing. She worked hard on her presentation, making sure every word was just right. Deep inside, she hoped this would be her chance to change how everyone saw her, not just as the girl with the accent, but as someone with a proud story worth hearing. The day of the presentations finally arrived. The classroom buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. Some students wore flashy outfits, hoping to impress. Others whispered jokes about who would mess up. When it was their turn, most talked about famous singers, sports stars or movie heroes. The room filled with typical stories, until Anaya's name was called. Mrs. Carver looked unimpressed and rolled her eyes. Anaya stood slowly, clutching her notes. Her heart beat loudly in her chest, but she took a deep breath and began. She spoke clearly, telling the story of her father. How he had come to America with nothing but a small suitcase and big dreams. How he worked long hours, faced struggles, and never gave up. Anaya's voice grew stronger as she shared more. She said her father was not just anyone. He was Dr. Rajiv Khatri, a respected neurosurgeon known in the community. He was also a member of the school board, helping to make decisions that affected the very classrooms they all sat in. The room fell silent. Students stopped whispering, some faces showed surprise, others disbelief. Mrs. Carver's expression changed, her lips pressed tight, her eyes wide with shock. Anaya looked directly at Mrs. Carver and finished with words that echoed clearly. My father always told me to be proud of who I am. To never let anyone make me feel small, even if they have power. The silence was heavy, no one dared to laugh or interrupt. The whole room had turned, all eyes on Anaya and the weight of her story. Mrs. Carver's face tightened, trying to hide her surprise. She clapped slowly, but the sound felt cold and forced. Anaya held her head high, feeling a strength she hadn't known she had before. The room stayed quiet as the students looked at Anaya with new respect. Some whispered, "I didn't know," while others nodded quietly. After class, a few classmates came up to Anaya. They smiled, said kind words, and told her how proud they were. Lila hugged her tightly, her eyes shining. "You did amazing," she said. Anaya walked out of the classroom feeling lighter. The weight of the past weeks seemed to lift just a little, but the story didn't end there. That afternoon, Anaya was called to the principal's office. Her father was waiting there calm and serious. He told Anaya he had already spoken to the school about what happened. A formal complaint was made. The principal explained Mrs. Carver would be put on leave while the school looked into the situation. Anaya felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. She thanked her father, who smiled and said, "I'm proud of you for standing up. Your voice is powerful." For the first time in a long time, Anaya felt like she belonged, not because of her father's name, but because she had found her own courage. Word about what happened spread quickly through the school. Students who had once ignored Anaya now nodded at her in the halls. Teachers who had been distant began to offer quiet smiles of support. Anaya noticed a change, not just in how others saw her, but in how she saw herself. Her accent remained the same, but she no longer felt it was something to hide. It was a part of who she was, something to be proud of. One afternoon, she was called again to the principal's office. Her father was there once more, this time with a kind but serious look. He told her the school was taking the complaint seriously. Mrs. Carver was on leave while they investigated the situation. Anaya understood that change would not happen overnight, but this was a start. She realized that sometimes, standing up for yourself could change the world around you. Her father put a hand on her shoulder. "You've done something important," he said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for anyone who has ever felt small because of who they are." Anaya smiled, feeling stronger than ever before. In the weeks that followed, the school slowly began to change. Students learned to be kinder, and teachers thought twice before making harsh judgments. Anaya's story was shared quietly, among students as a reminder that everyone deserves respect. Anaya herself felt different. She walked the halls with her head held high, no longer hiding behind her quiet voice or her accent. She knew who she was, and that was enough. The classroom where Mrs. Carver once mocked her became a place where stories like Anaya's mattered. People realized that accents are not mistakes but parts of rich, unique histories. The narrator reflects, sometimes people judge others too quickly, focusing on differences instead of the strength beneath them. But when someone speaks their truth, even the quietest voice can echo the loudest. Anaya's journey was not just about standing up to a teacher. It was about family, pride, and finding power in the parts of ourselves others try to diminish. Her father's words stayed with her. Never be ashamed of who you are, even if someone with power tries to make you feel small. And from that day on, no one dared to mock Anaya's voice again.